Welcome to Culture Before Content. Culture Before Content from Music for All and presented by Yamaha. And now, here's your host, David Duarte.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm David Duarte, your host for today's episode of Culture Before Content. We are so glad you could join us here on the Music for All podcast network. And a special thank you to Yamaha, who is our national presenting sponsor, for their incredible support. At Music for All, and for all of us, really, our mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-changing experiences through music, which I know you do all the time. Well, welcome. I know many of you are here watching us live. You're either watching us on YouTube or Facebook. If you're a part of this, feel free to chime in, chat. The other thing you can do is share the broadcast with your friends. And the neat thing about both the Facebook and YouTube is you can watch it later or you can share it now. Either one is fine. And during the week, we have our podcast, the audio versions of our podcast that come available on Mondays. We have we have a couple of spots for them. We have Apple Podcast and we have Spotify, but really we have a bunch of different places where we have that. And if you want to really find them, you can just go to musicforall.org/podcasts and you can find them. Oh, and you can even click on the link to the show and check out some information here about Culture Before Content, which I think is amazing and exciting. So let's talk a little bit about last week. Last week, we had Laura Shepard. She was a 2024 CMA Foundation Music Teacher of Excellence. She shared her strategies for building trust, inclusivity, and a positive culture in her band program at Donaldson Middle School in Nashville. She emphasized consistency, kindness, and creating a safe space for her students. Many of her students are facing challenging circumstances, which she talked about. She just absolutely adored and loves her kids. It was just fantastic. She highlighted the importance of the strong support network she has, and she encourages educators everywhere to embrace new ideas and seek help when needed. And she just loves her community. All right, let's get to what we have this week. I am so excited. We have the 2023 Washington Music Educators Association and Washington Interscholastic Activities Association Music Educator of the Year, Mr. Ramon Rivera. He's from Mount Vernon High School, just north of Seattle, and welcome him to the show today. So everyone put your hands together, or not, for Mr. Ramon Rivera.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing
hola.
great. So, hola to you, señora.
Hola, hola.
Mi
Buenos días.
español es muy
Buenas
mal.
tardes. Sí, no, you know burrito, taco, enchilada, all the good, all the good words.
A little bit more than
tortas,
that. My Spanish,
right? Tortas.
I don't like the tortas.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, guest, this is a pure treat. So Ramon is here today, and you'll never guess what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about his amazing mariachi program that he has at his school. But I'm going to let him lead the way. So Ramon, first off, why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe tell us a little bit about your program, and let's start talking a little bit of mariachi.
Well, David, thank you for having me on. And thank you to Yamaha and the podcast network and Music for All. That's what mariachi music means. It's music for all. It means that you could reach a new demographic of students. So I am from Mount Vernon, Washington. So right behind me is the beautiful Cascade Mountains. This is an actual picture I took. This is called a camera called the iPhone. It's really cool. It made some beautiful pictures. But what I'm really excited is just a new way to reach students. So we're going to say, the first thing is we're going to say, David, can you say mariachi?
Mariachi.
Because when I do presentations or when I go perform, people say mariachi or maharashi or Merry Christmas or something like that. So I just want to make sure when people see the word, they say mariachi, because mariachi is not, and it's not mariachi band, it's a mariachi. It's just one word by itself, because people go, I like your mariachi band, but it's also called a mariachi. So that's all you have to say is mariachi. Just make sure that we say it right, because when we say words, we want to make sure, and like when we talk to our students, we want to make sure that we say their name correctly and we say the style of music that we're doing. So I've been teaching. I taught mariachi in California, and then I taught in Wenatchee, Washington, and now I'm at Mount Vernon for the last 4 years. I teach 2 classes of mariachi. I also teach Folklorico, which is a style of music that they dance to, which is I have a dance endorsements. So the kids get PE credit for taking, they have a
What?
choice between Folklorico or PE. And so I think that's really cool so I have a beginner, intermediate, and advanced dance group. And then I teach a program called Latinos in Action, but also my mariachi class is a college in the high school class. So they also get college credit. They get 2 college credits for taking their class. So there's a lot of good things that we're doing in Mount Vernon. And as you see, that's our website, mvmusic.org, and you can look up mariachi. But the most important part of our music department is the MV Music it's the band, the orchestra, the choir, the booster club. I mean, our booster club is a music boosters. It's not a band boosters. It's not a choir booster. It's not an orchestra booster. It's a music booster. So it raises money for all the groups. And then when we do concerts together, we do it all together. So it's a lot of collaboration. And I think Mount Vernon is doing something that other people aren't doing in the United States, is including this. So that instrument, these are 2 students. We just had mariachi camp. We have band camp too.
Uh,
We just call it mariachi. But this is our 2 students. The instrument that she's playing is something called the guitarrón. And the guitarrón has 6 strings and is played with 2 strings at the same time. And so it's the most beautiful acoustic bass out there. Unless you want to carry a double bass around, this is the second best option. Nobody wants to carry a double bass around. But when you're learning mariachi, this is the armonía section. There was guitarras and vihuelas, and so the students are wearing something called a traje de charro, which is their uniforms that they wear. And so you can see I wore one today so I could represent. But they also have these bows called moños that they're wearing, and this is part of the traditional uniform that is worn when we play mariachi. And I'll go more into that too. And we had to take a selfie. That was really cool. We performed at Lincoln Rock State Park in Wenatchee, and we filled it up. And so I said, "Come on, kids, let's take a selfie before we get on performance." And those smiles are just like a band kid. Those smiles are just like a choir kid. Those smiles they are so pumped and excited to perform this music. It's
they look
beautiful.
so proud.
Yeah. And if you come to Mount Vernon, Washington, we are the home of the tulips. So if you look at those tulip fields, they're so beautiful. Look at those tulip fields. They're just
Oh, it's gorgeous.
beautiful. I know you got to I don't know if you ever been to the tulip festival, but our students, yes. Those are our folklorico dancers, and you see how they're opposite, like the yellow is over there and the red is over there. But I after this podcast, everybody just want to move to Mount Vernon because this is my backyard. This is how beautiful it is. It's so beautiful, Skagit County, and we're just at a beautiful part of the state. We're close to Canada, close to Seattle, close to Bellingham. But those fields, my students have their parents, they work in agriculture. So they work with picking those tulips. They work in planting the tulips. They also work with the strawberries and also with the fruit, the berries that we have here. So like when I taught in Wenatchee, they worked with the apples, pears, and stuff. So anytime you pick up an apple, look at the sticker. It says Washington. It came from either Wenatchee, came from Yakima, it came from our beautiful state. So we have beautiful agricultural and beautiful scenery, and we're so far from Mexico, and we're playing mariachi music. Can you believe it?
I always tell people it's just up I-5. You can get to Mexico, just drive down I-5.
Yeah, all the way down.
It's gonna take you a while.
Go from Blaine to Tijuana. It's just just 20 hours.
You don't even have to get off the exit.
Well, let's start it. Let's go.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this because, like I said, I'm to my audience members. I've been trying to get this set up for a while because I'm enamored with your program. So I live in Washington, and so when I moved here, I started looking around Facebook to make friends and just see who's around here. And I stumbled onto you pretty quickly, also because in Washington Music Educators, you're everywhere. You're extremely amazing. But the program that you have, the mariachi program that you have created, is something that has interested me all around the country because they're starting to pop up everywhere, and it just interests me that you can start something. And I hate to say this, but it's a little non-traditional for us band, choir, and orchestra folks. But it's my belief that we're going to talk about music is music, and you have something that you love, something that represents culture, and that's something that I think your city loves, your students love. But maybe we can start talking about, how did you build a program? If you're a band director around the country and you're thinking this looks like something I'd like to like explore, how do you start something like this?
Well, first is do your research. First is like you look at what instrumentation do I need. So you have training on playing of the violin. So there's only five different instruments, not like band. You have, I don't know how many instruments, David, like
Too
20,
many.
too many.
Too many.
Bassoon, double reeds, oboe, but with mariachi, you just have guitar, vihuela, guitarrón, violin, and trumpet, and sometimes the harp. We don't have to add the harp yet, but that's when your program gets more advanced. But in the beginning, the basic is to have a violin section, a trumpet section, uh, armonia section, which is the rhythm, which because there's no drums in mariachi, it's just
Correct.
guitar, vihuela, and guitarrón. So the guitarrón is an instrument that you would have to learn, and the vihuela. So I really think because you already have training on trumpet, you already have training on violin, and then we you teach the kids how to read music. We learn how to read music in mariachi. A G is a G, a C is a C, a D is a D, and then if you have students from Mexico or from different countries like El Salvador, they they learn their notes with solfege. So theirs is do re mi fa sol la si do instead of ti do. So a lot of you already know solfege. So if you could read a score and you could learn the guitarron and learn the vihuela, it's a great way to add to your music. To I even say double your music program. You could double your music program by adding mariachi because there is a demographic that you are not reaching. I always, when I work with teachers and I work with districts and I work with schools, I'm all, how much outreach do you do to the Latino community? Do you put up a poster for your band or your music program at the local laundromat, at the Mexican store down the street, go on the Spanish radio station, get your Latino students to go out to the community because um, getting mariachi is more of a grassroots, like street marketing, where you're going out and doing Facebook posts and reaching out to the community because the community loves mariachi music. When the kids go home, their family listens to mariachi music. So there's very few music that you could listen from grades K through 99 years old, right? So what's great about this is mariachi music is family music, and it's music that brings the whole family together. So when we have a celebration, we're listening to mariachi music. When we have a birthday, we're listening to mariachi music. When we have a wedding, we have mariachi music. So it's a great way of getting people in the family to come to the school. That's the hardest part, is that I've been to many interventions, and you have too, David, in your years, and they're like, how do we get these Latino families to come? How do they come to the parent open house? How do they come to the parent meeting? How do they come to the information night? Have your mariachi perform, play the music. Always, what does better is having music that's to your demographics. So we have a question, right?
Yeah,
I
are
see it
you using
below.
xylophones and marimbas appropriate for mariachi?
So I when you're starting out, you have what you have, because right now no schools have any money right now because money is difficult. So if you have marimbas and you have xylophones, um I've worked with schools where they've done like ukuleles, and elementary schools, ukuleles and marimbas just to start it off.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of literature. Like there's a song called Las Chapanecas that is come from the southern part of Mexico, like the state of Chiapas. They have, or even Central America, where they do songs with mariachi with the marimba.
Yeah, and he's got a follow-up question too, which is where can I find simple mariachi repertoire, not sample. Sorry.
So a lot of simple now Peppers, Hal Leonard, the big music companies actually have mariachi music from grades levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I would start there. Also, you could also reach out to me. I'm going to give you my email, and so that you
Oh,
could
we're all
reach
reaching
out.
out.
Oh, reaching out, that's good. But also look for the mariachi experts in your community. I would always start with that because they're going to help you. And then we have some great mariachi educators across the country, and Las Vegas has the biggest mariachi program. It's huge. They have elementary school, middle school, high school, and now UNLV is starting mariachi. And then Texas, big.
Texas.
Texas. You go watch the new Netflix series that's called Varsity Mariachi. I mean, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, I
You
watched
you
it
were
yesterday to my audience, and it is absolutely fantastic. I just
yeah.
laughed because at one point he was upset because he got a 2. I don't want to ruin the documentary, but all of us directors, the dreaded festival rating system. But at least from personal experience, reaching out to your Latino community is very powerful, and they are very close knit community. I mean, especially, and I want to encourage our listeners to talk to them, because sometimes we don't realize how that community is interconnected, and this is something that might just be ready to happen at your school, and you have no idea until you reach out.
Are and I've seen that in districts. I've done professional developments and in areas that you would not even think that would have mariachi. So I recently did a workshop in Birmingham, Alabama for Jefferson County Schools. In Birmingham, Alabama, they started with 18 students this last year. Now they went to 80 students in a year and that's Birmingham, Alabama. And then I went, did some one in Indianapolis. They're starting mariachi. So in areas that you think you're like Indianapolis, they don't have mariachi. Birmingham, Alabama, they have mariachi. It is everywhere. And it's just another tool to reach kids because we need to get a bigger net when it comes to music. So I've done the Modern Band Summit and I've seen kids learn Metallica and Nirvana and Prince, and they form rock bands and they're so awesome. Music Will and all of them, they're just so amazing. And now mariachi is people are having they see that it reaches a demographic that was not included in their music program. So, and one of the biggest minority populations that are growing in the United States is our Latino population. It's growing everywhere in the United States. And so students reach and look for music that looks like them because representation matters not just in the music you pick but also the music that you teach. So if you're in a school with 50% Latinos, 60% or 70%, that's something that you could do that will help your community. So I really look that you teach to your demographics always. And if you have those kind of demographics and you do your research and you find an expert and find a coach to help you, because it's not going to, I'm not going to say you're going to get it like that, but I think if you get the right coaching and you get the right music and you get the right instruments, I think it could be successful. And also people are going to help. Yes, Harold, 40% of your school is, and they want to start an ensemble. I would go for it.
You
I
will be
do
shocked.
whatever you'll be, Harold. It would be a great opportunity for your students. And also it will double your music program because as you know, David, it's all about the numbers, right? It's all about the numbers. And if you could get the numbers, believe me, that the school will support you
Yeah.
100%.
I'm putting my administrator on hat right now. It is the number one way to get classes is the numbers. If the numbers support, you're going to get it. And we've got a declining enrollment is very prevalent right now in
Mm-hmm.
America. And though there's those of us that are fighting, my big thing right now is fighting declining enrollment with more bodies, still keeping the program alive. And like I said, one of our former guests, you and I both know, Rachel Lake, started a
Yes.
mariachi program. And hers was unique because she got to start hers in the middle school program, and now it's hit the high school and it's exploding.
Yes.
And
In a
that's what
small community. A small
very
community.
small community.
Yeah.
Not very small. Well, let's see. I always talk to her. I'm the smaller community. She's a small community.
Well,
But
right now the big push is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so when we have diversity in our music and we include everybody who walks through that door, music is not a privileged program. I always say that students should not have to be rich to play music. They shouldn't have to have a wealthy parent or be able to have private lessons. A lot of our families can't afford it. And that's not the kid's fault ever.
that brings up a good point, though. How much would you say a guitarron or like any of the instruments cost? Like, what's a good startup estimate for these types of programs? Like,
So when we look at music and we're doing this, it is more affordable to start a mariachi program than a band program. I'm sorry, band directors, but if you were to get the kettle drum and the tubas and all that, you're talking about $100,000. That.
that is very genuine. That is a very generous
Yeah,
estimate.
that's being kind because everybody wants that kettle drum, that. But the one that floats, the drum that floats, that one's fun too. That now the other thing is the mariachi. If you're just starting a basic class, it could be affordable for like $10,000, 5,000. Like you're getting just guitars are affordable. Trumpets, you could get some really good trumpets that are affordable. Violins, you could get them affordable. So violins, trumpets. The only one would be expensive would probably be a guitarron, which could go between a beginner from 500 to 1,000, and then a vihuela will be about 500. But if you just have like, let's say you have a class set of 20, and you're just getting that started, like 20 instruments, you could get things started for a more affordable price than starting a band or an orchestra, um, or a cost of a set of risers could make you have a start a mariachi program, because I believe in like that baseball movie. If you bring the instruments, the students will come. Right.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, writing grants, especially if you're like in a small school or a smaller school, grants are very powerful. And and talk to your district. A lot of times people don't realize, but your district office, no matter what school size you are, has somebody who specializes in grants. And this is a perfect way to get to access grants and think about something in a program. And again, I can't stress enough, diversity in just music alone. I am like right now, I'm the choir, the music production, and I'm the band director. I am broadening my horizons out
A
of
lot
and
of
so
hats.
yeah, and I enjoy every one of them. But here we got another question, which is what are your top 5 to 10 tunes in your important repertoire list for ensembles?
So when we look at repertoire, we look at what's easy to start and what's going to be successful fast. So there's a song called Árboles de la Barranca, which is an easy song, which has like 3 or 4 notes in there. That's a great song to start kids and get. Remember, we sing too. Mariachi is everything. Mariachi is brass,
Okay.
mariachi is strings, mariachi is guitars, mariachi is singing. And so I could provide that for you, Harold, with the whole list, and I will do a follow up, because if I
Yeah,
go through all of them,
reach out
yeah,
to them.
reach out to me. I'll make sure you have my email, and then I will send you those top 5, 10 tunes that I suggest. Right now, I'm working on a project, so having, because Hispanic Heritage Month is coming up, September
Yep.
15th to October 15th. And they're like, we want to play mariachi music, but we don't know what to play. And so I have a list that's coming out of 50 songs that are going to be that you could play in the classroom, like songs that are just for like welcoming kids, and then appropriate mariachi songs, because some people don't know where to start. So that's going to be coming out really soon.
Yeah, my kinship to this is like those teachers who come out of college and they want to start jazz programs, and a lot of times they have no jazz background. And like I'm a classical musician who became a jazz educator, and it all starts with go listen. Just start somewhere and it's like, the continuous improvement model. Start somewhere and you're going to get better at it. Every single time you try it, you're going to connect to other people. Like, I would not do anything without, like, now that I have you in my backyard, so to speak, I'll be asking you a question every time. Like, what do you
Great.
think about this one? Oh, that one's too hard. Try this one.
Well, we have a lot of mariachi experts in Los Angeles too. There's a big mariachi community, and they're always willing to help. Any mariachi educator that I've worked with, they're like, "We want you to teach this music. We want you to keep this tradition alive," because you know what this music that kids are playing over 100 years old. So these kids listen to rap music and mariachi. So they want to keep their cultural music alive, but they also listen to all the other types of music too. So um, what I would do, hi Keith, what I would look at first, go to your school. A lot of these students qualify for federal money. There's migrant, there's Title I, there's Title II, there's
Talk to your
intervention
district
money.
office.
Talk to your, say, what kind of intervention programs do you have for our Latino students, our students that can't afford instruments? A lot of foundations out there would love to give money to a mariachi program because they know it's reaching kids that cannot afford to be in a typical music program.
And I would also say reach out to your local and regional foundations. There's a lot of local culture arts foundations that are out there in your community. There's no one answer to answer that question of where can you get things from. But look, I mean, do
Or
some
the
research
Rotary
in your
Club. The Rotary Club. I went to a
Yep.
Rotary Club meeting. They bought shoes for the whole Folklorico. I said I needed shoes. They bought it. So just be creative. If you have any ideas, you could also email me. But I would really just ask the school first, ask the principal and say, what funds can I use? Because there's a lot of categorical funds that they want to use, but it can only be used for these certain students. So, and a lot of our students, like my students work in the farms, so they qualify for migrant funds, federal funds. So there's a lot of federal funds dollars that are available, and Title I funds, because they're not at grade level, so there's Title I funds, because our whole thing is to keep kids in school, and there's no better way to keep kids in school by having positive outlets like music, right?
Heaven forbid the kids want to come to school.
Well, if not, they're gonna pick up the negative outlets. So I
Yep.
don't care if kids are in cheerleading. I don't care if they're in band. I don't care if they are in the chess club or the debate team. If they're connected to school, they will graduate and do better in school. All things, and every statistic shows any kid that's in music does better. The
Yep.
attendance rate is better. The school rate is better. The family's more involved. So why, if you are questioning how do we get these Latino students to be involved, let's reach them with the power of music. Because you've seen it, David. You've seen it in your classroom, that a student that is not connected to school and plays their guitar or plays their drum or plays their trumpet, they're going to graduate because they're connected with you, they're connected with the school. But it's also, mariachi brings something else. It brings cultural pride. It brings self-esteem. It brings
Absolutely.
pride in their community, pride in their family, because I'm part of the Rivera family, and the Rivera family plays mariachi music. So it is something that brings the magic to the classroom, and you'll see a big difference when you add mariachi, folklorico, and even just adding it to your curriculum. Just playing a song, that playing Las Mañanitas, the birthday song, or playing a song that what's coming up is Hispanic Heritage Month. So I have a kickoff that we do the first 5 days of Hispanic Heritage Month. I put a Latino artist on the board, Gloria Estefan or whoever, Vicente Fernandez, and I play that song, and people that are not Latino go, "Hey, I like that music. I never heard it before." I said, this is salsa, this is merengue." So it's our job, and it's our job, David, is to go teach from Mozart to mariachi and everything in between. So if we're not doing that, we need to. Your goal this year is to teach from Mozart to mariachi, because if we're that's what we teach. We're music educators. And I know a lot of people are afraid to teach mariachi because of cultural appropriation, right? They're like, I'm
Right, right.
appropriating this music. I'm faking or whatever. And it's not cultural appropriation. It's cultural appreciation. You're appreciating our culture. You're actually, most of you are the one music teacher, like David is, the one music teacher at your school. English, they have 15 teachers, right? Math, they have 15. We have one. So when we have one teacher teaching all music, your degree says music. That means it doesn't say band, right? It doesn't say choir. It doesn't say orchestra. It says music. So our job, K through 12 or K through 15 is to teach Mozart to mariachi, because mariachi is a big deal to our kids. And if you include this music in your curriculum, I'm not saying some of you don't need a full mariachi program. That would be great, but I would start introducing it. Maybe start an after school program and say, get some instruments, write a grant, get kids excited about music, kids that are not part of it. And I wouldn't reach to your band and go, who wants to join mariachi? I
Yeah.
would reach to the entire school. And each school has these wonderful family advocates or migrant secretaries or migrant program directors or federal $1. And they're always asking me, Ramon, how do we connect these kids? I said, more music, more art, more all that kind of stuff that you need. Yes,
So
Harold's back. Harold, I love your questions. Keep them going, Harold.
yeah, keep them coming.
Keep them coming because it makes the show interesting, right?
Yeah, and see, so have you developed a curriculum or scope and sequence?
So there are Jeff Naveen has a great method book that's out there. I know Marcia Neal has a great method book out there. So there are some great method books that are already done for you. They start from zero, and they have some great pictures of the vihuela and the guitarrón. And always support your local music store. They have them. Just go, I want the mariachi masteries or mariachi method books. They are out there so that because band has method books. Now mariachi has 2 or 3 different sets of method books that you could purchase, and they're made by top mariachi educators.
How long did it take you to, like, when you said you moved here from California? So when you got to Washington, how long? I mean, I would assume there wasn't a mariachi program when you started. How long did it take you to build what you have?
Well, it goes back to my mom. My mom bought me a trumpet at a yard sale. And she said, one day you're going to be a famous mariachi and play it in front of a lot of people and teach other. I was like, yeah, whatever, mom. But I was in band. I started in elementary school band, middle school band, high school band, college band. But as a trumpet player, someone said, hey, why don't you join this local mariachi? Why don't you would like it. And once I started playing mariachi music, I just fell in love with it. I just fell in love with it. And then my whole family plays mariachi music. My mom plays mariachi, my sister, my brothers, they play every weekend at weddings and quinceañeras and festivals. And so it's just part of our family's music. And now with public schools teaching mariachi, anybody could learn mariachi, because mariachi was usually taught down by family. So if you're part of the Rivera family would teach you the guitarrón and you would teach your kids. But now that you teach at the public schools, anybody could do it. So if you're in 6th grade and you want to learn guitarrón and you have one, it could be possible. So I'm excited that it's making mariachi accessible to everybody. And that's what Music for All is all about. Is like, how can we include this music? Just like it's a style of music. Like you teach jazz band, David, you teach jazz band.
I do.
So, and I get this question a lot, because jazz music is actually Black music. It was traditionally from the South. It was invented by beautiful Black musicians like Duke Ellington, and we could go on and on about the jazz musicians, but the people that are teaching jazz band are not all Black, right? So
And again, it's
and
something you pick up and you learn. You
you
start
learn.
somewhere.
Of course, the best musicians, the best mariachi is taught by the top music educators, but we're not everywhere. There's not enough mariachi educators that are out there. So we need your help. We need you to get it started. And then once you get it started, who knows? You could have a mariachi director and a band director and a choir director, because it's all about the numbers. David, if your school had 100 kids in mariachi, they would hire a second director. They would go, let's get somebody who is an expert in this and how we could grow this. It's getting more kids. I see people showing up to community meetings. I just think it's the sky's the limit if you add mariachi to your school program.
How long do you have kids that start with you? Like I'm gonna learn, Mr. Rivera. I want to learn the guitarron. How long? Do you have kids that are starting with you on the non-traditional instruments for them?
Yeah, so what we do is we have kids that like I have kids that cross over from band that played the flute, and then you teach them the guitarron, and or they teach them the violin, and it's good because they already know how to read music, so it's really simple to change that. But it's fun to get a kid that knows nothing, and then you start them on the guitar, and you start them on the vihuela, or you start them on the guitarron or the trompeta, and you're just getting them started, and then you say you have a lot of power music teachers because I've gone to a student, you look like a trumpet player. And then 5 years later, he's superstar trumpet player. I'm all, you look like a guitarron player. So you have that power music teachers. If you go to the person say, you look like a guitarron player. And of course, we have a crystal ball to make this happen. But it's really cool because you see them in 5 years later being a superstar in their in their guitarron or their vihuela. So we have that power. Let's do it.
I just think it's amazing because I think provide opportunity and someone will go out there. But if you don't provide opportunity, they're never going to do it if you don't bring up the subject, which is why I ask, because I've had kids learn a new instrument in less than a year. And like I said, musicianship transfers on new instruments. If a kid's a
Yes.
great instrumentalist and they decide they're going to play something else, they're going to be a great instrumentalist on that as well. And that's some of those, those tips that I have. If you really want a great guitarron player, find a great musician. They're going to figure it out. And then Harold actually brought up a question earlier that I want to go back to. It says, "Do
Yes.
your kids bring song ideas to you? Have you used them?"
Yes.
Because I know what the answer is in my head, and I just want to hear what you have to say about kids
Yeah.
bringing the song ideas to you.
So there's just like what you do in band or music, or when you're choosing pep music, there's songs that I want to play, but then there's songs that the kids want to play. So I always survey the kids. I go, okay, can you give me some songs that you would like to play? Can you give me some songs that that you could sing, especially my singers? I go, instead of me doing all the research, give power to your students. Like I have in my leadership, I have like a president and vice president, and I have one that's a vice president of music. And one of his jobs is right now his name is Eric. Eric has to go to the students and go talk to them and say, hey, what songs do you want to play this year? What are our goals this year? So you don't have, as an educator, you don't have to do all the work. Make a leader who's in charge. And then his other job is to make sure that they know their music. I said, does the guitarron have all the music? Do you have all of it? So give the students that leadership. And then he comes and talks to me. The kids, here's the list of the kids' songs, which one we could do. And I look at their abilities and go, hey, wow, we could play this one. I didn't even think about doing this one. So please use the students. The students love to be part of that decision making.
Well, I think that's true with any subject. If you get the
Yes.
students involved in the process, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. They
And
just
so
need
you
to be
talked
hooked.
about, yeah, and again, um, I would say this: guidance is everything. I almost don't consider myself to be a teacher. I consider myself to be a guide. I have, I hate to say this, but I got to retire and go back to teaching because I needed to go back and work with the kids. Because,
Yes.
once I got my retaste of it again, there's no looking back. And now I just want to provide opportunity after opportunity, and if Ramon can make this work in Washington, all the way near Canada, I'm like, this has to be able to work. I mean, how many mariachi programs would you say there are in the Pacific Northwest? Or hey, I'm sure you're
Well,
connected in.
now they're growing. Now it was started in Wenatchee, Washington, and there was this educator called Mark Fogelquist who started the mariachi program in there, and I got to be there for 15 years, and I've seen how it grown. But it was the model program in the Pacific Northwest, and now in Pasco, and now in Mount Vernon, and now in Seattle, and now in Ocean Shores. I mean, it is spread. And Burien started a beautiful school.
Mhm.
Highland School District is starting mariachi because it's a new way of they're reaching students that were not involved in the traditional music program of band, choir, and orchestra. So I think we need to get our branches out there, get our net, and maybe it's modern band. Maybe it's video, I mean music production, maybe it's that. But I would have that on your list, on your short list, have mariachi. If your Latino population is dying for this kind of music, let's bring it to the people. There's tons of resources, there's tons of educators. I think you could do it with a little help. It is all possible.
Wow. I just think that that's absolutely amazing what you've done.
Well,
And you say you do a lot of presentations on this, I assume. Like
yes,
you go around. And so
yeah.
talk about what those presentations are like, or what some of the things that you bring up in those
Well,
presentations.
one of the things that I bring up is always is that that our Latino students want to be involved in music. They want to be involved in music because 90% of our job is motivation. You know that 90% of our job is just showing them the music and show them that you could do it. Like, you don't have to be the best guitarron player or the best guitar player or the best trumpet player to show a kid trumpet, but all you have to do is give them the basic foundation, and then they take off, because most of our kids now are learning through YouTube. I mean, they go, like, I give them a vihuela, they go home and they learn all these different rhythms that I didn't even show them. But you gave them the basic tools, you give them the instrument like the guitarron, you give it to them, and then they go on YouTube and they look up all these videos and they're like, hey, look what I found on YouTube, look what I could do on this. A lot of the students are even excel more because they have that resource. You give them that, they go home and they practice for hours and hours and hours. Like, how can I play this? How can I play that? And then they bring that back to the classroom and they bring that energy back to the classroom. That's what I always do, is give the kids the resources. Give the kid the guitarron. The first thing before starting anything is to get the instruments. Find the funding. Find the funding, because if you bring the instruments, the students will come. A lot of presentations that I work with, the school district already have the instruments. Now that I take them to the next level, I go, okay, now let's get music for these students. Let's find some simple, easy songs where kids could be successful in and have them play it. And then once you get the kids successful in the vihuela, the guitarron, the trumpet, the guitar, the singing, the sky's the limit. They don't stop. They want to learn more. So I worked with programs all over the country, I've seen it where even in elementary schools they've started doing mariachi now. I've seen I worked with a school in Anaheim that went to the modern band, and they learned like 5 easy mariachi songs and they played it, and the kids are now coming after school every day to grab the guitarron, to grab the trumpet, to grab the guitar. And I see this as a great way of connecting kids to school. So as we look at curriculum, you get those mastery books, you get you the uniforms will come later. That's not important. Right now, the most important part is getting the instruments. And then once your program's going, you get the fancy earrings, the fancy uniforms, and the fancy instruments. But I would just say right now is just get the kids to play, because you
Well,
could just wear them. They could just wear concert black and have one of these beautiful bows and look like superstars. And I've seen it where I brought my band in to a parent meeting and the room is packed because they all came to see their kids perform. So this is a great way of connecting these kids to your school.
can you talk about maybe some of the community reaction that you've had? Like, I'm sure you do a lot of, like, you go out in the community and perform, and I'm sure, I mean, are you met with some people that are, it's like the first time they've ever heard a mariachi group before? What kind of things happens when you go in the community?
So this just I'm going to use some recent examples that we've done. So we do a concert series for the Washington State Parks. And so we go to the Washington State Parks and we play at the different parks in the state. And the parks look like this behind us. They're beautiful. You haven't seen the Washington State
Gorgeous.
Park. This is, yes, it's gorgeous. This is a real picture too. This is not some screensaver. I took it myself. We went to play for the campers and we did Deception Pass Park, where Deception Pass is just a beautiful park here, and we played there and we sold it out. There was But it was not just Latino families, it was American families, because people, I think mariachi is for everybody. Everybody loves mariachi music. David loves mariachi music. It's just, even if you don't understand like all the words, but you feel the music. And so right now we we did this one park, we sold it out, and then they're like, you're so successful, can you do another park? And the second year we did Lake Wenatchee Park, and this one we did Lincoln Rock Park. Each of them had over 300-400 people that were not Latino. It was really awesome to see that. And then we have coming up is Hispanic Heritage Month, Mexican Independence Day, all of these celebrations that are coming up, and the community is, I can't even keep up. And I know Rachel has the same thing. They call me and they're like, I have to say no because there's so many events that our students, and it's not performing at a concert, it's performing out for our community. So if you want to do great community outreach, this is a program that you could add to your school. Like we're going to play at the school board meeting in a couple weeks for Hispanic Heritage Month, and they invited us. And so, what a better way to advocate for a music program when the school board is right in front of you, the ones that decide the budget. You show them, you show the kids, because sometimes they don't get to see it. They're not going to come to your concert. So if you have that platform where you could go bring your groups to perform, take them out. And there's no better PR group than the mariachi program at your school. And
No
I know
matter what you do.
there was a question from Harold. I don't know where it was, but keep it going, Harold.
Yeah. But I said, perception is everything. And like I said, if you want, like I said, if you're looking for numbers, if you're looking for money, if you're looking for resources, if the perception is out there, whether it's true or not, that perception is a huge thing to build. So playing at a board meeting, playing at a community event, and then maybe talk about like the pride the students feel in the program. I mean, that has to be a major source. Pride for you and for the kids.
Yeah, about mariachi music, it brings cultural pride, self-esteem, school pride, and pride in themselves, because we have a lot of kids that feel down about themselves, but not when they put on that mariachi uniform, not when they play that trumpet, and not when they play that solo, and not when they're singing that song. Because what I like when I'm teaching mariachi music and they play a song like Cerca de Mar or El Rey or Son de la Negra, they go to me, my grandma loves that song. That's my grandpa's favorite song. That's my tia's favorite song. That's my uncle's favorite song. I remember my mom playing that song when she was cooking dinner or making tamales or whatever. And that's where that connection comes from. Is it has more than just teaching notes on a page. It's more than teaching music. You're teaching familia, because this is their family's music. And there's no way better to bring people together than music and food. And everybody loves Mexican food. Everyone loves mariachi music. So those two combined together is so awesome, because I've seen it. I've seen families when we have a mariachi concert. I go, hey, I need help with tortillas. I need with tortas. I need tamales, and they bring it out in droves. Our families will cook for me. Will make things for me. Will do whatever it takes to make things so that it connects them to school, because that's how we get engagement. That's how we get engagement in our community, is by including culture in our music. And it's more than that. When you have those parent meetings, have the parents bring in pan dulce, bring in food that they relate to. Don't buy pizza all the time. Don't you go to meetings and they're like, we got pizza. I'm like, let's be creative. Let's have the pan dulce. Let's have the carne asada. It probably costs as much as the pizza anyway. So, but
Well, it tastes much better in my opinion.
And tastes much better. I think you would want to have Mexican food over that. But I am so excited to see that this mariachi revolution is coming in our schools. When I see programs in Las Vegas, and I see programs in Texas and California and the Pacific Northwest, and now in Birmingham, Alabama, and Indianapolis and Iowa, it's going worldwide and nationwide. And there's mariachis in Japan, there's mariachis in Sweden, there's mariachis in South America. I mean, it is music that is international, and do not be afraid to teach it in your classroom. We have tons of resources. 20 years ago, there wasn't that many resources. Now there's books. I have a friend, Carlos Maldonado, wrote a bunch of books, and there's Jeff Naveen, and there's the Las Vegas educators, the Texas educators. They all are making books so that makes it more accessible to everybody, and to the band teacher, and to the choir teacher, and to the orchestra teacher. But you're not a band teacher. You're a music teacher. You teach
I'm a
from
guy.
Mozart to mariachi. And so when you do that, you got to write that down to yourself and say, I'm going to teach Mozart to mariachi this year. And I'm going to challenge myself how much mariachi music I'm going to put, how much Latino music. Another thing is, how many Latinos do you have on your wall? How many Latino artists do you have on the wall? How many mariachi artists do you have? How many mariachi groups do you have on your wall? How many do you show a slide of that? So when you're thinking about doing your curriculum, you go, maybe I'm not including that. Maybe I'm not celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. You have to reflect on your teaching and say, I want to make sure my Latino students feel welcome in my classroom. My
Yeah,
mariachi students.
one of the biggest impacts on me happened, I believe it was during college, but Linda Ronstadt put out that Canciones de mi Padre album, and I still listen to that thing. It's just so great. And you want to talk about somebody that's not cultural appropriation. That's a perfect example of somebody who took the music and brought it to light. I mean, this is back in the 80s, but so powerful. And and then there was I used to have the concert on a VHS
Yes.
tape. That poor thing. For those of us who were in the VHS generation, by the 18th or 19th time, yeah, it was just fuzz, but it sounded great. And so, like, Harold had a question. I don't. It's in the background that I saw. That was, do you recommend unison, 2-part, etc. in the beginning program? And that goes back to me. You start somewhere, and it just again, the continuous improvement. If it's unison, is unison. And I'm starting choir. I'm a choir teacher this year. I got 2 days. I got my piano here. I got to practice my piano.
Yeah.
And, in my brain, I have, how good are they? I don't know. I got to wait until I get in front of those students. If it's unison, I'll start unison. And then we're going to work the 2-part. Got a lot of sight singing to do. And again, solfege, because the process is one and the same. Dive into the curriculum of what you have and then expand it to fit your needs. You can only do wrong if you just don't open your mind to what is possible.
So there's so much in that question, Harold. And the thing is when you have, it says many students come to our school with zero to little English and speaking, and that's true. That's true. But they deserve to learn music. So you have plenty of interpreters. We have Chat GPT that could text certain things on your phone. Because I had a student that only spoke Ukrainian, and I don't know Ukrainian. So I had to go get my phone and talk to her that way. So I know how it feels when you don't know the Spanish. But the first thing I would say to Harold is, you go to your student and go, hola, mucho gusto. If you say it, hola, mucho gusto, hi, pleased to meet you.
Oh,
That's the best thing.
I've got a great one for you. Are you
Go
ready?
for it, David. Yes, I want to hear it.
Gonna laugh at me, and then I have my final statement, which is my shocker. To my audience out there, the greatest thing I was ever told, because I'm half Mexican, and just spell socks, SOCKS. It is like that statement can bridge a gap, and I've used it on my students. It is what it is, SOCKS. And so that was one of my phrases that helped me bridge that gap between I had a student last year. His cousin came he was in band, but his cousin moved here from Mexico, spoke zero English. And it was just, a matter of time and trying to reach anyone. Just reach the kids. There's no wrong way. The phones are great. There's so many translation, but again, my cultural life comes down to that statement. People remember you for how you make them feel. And this is just another great resource. So here's the scary part, Ramon. We've already reached the end of our time.
What?
So
I want another hour. I want another hour. We need to do part 2.
I know we can do part 7. We're never going to get through it all.
Yeah.
To our listening audience, Ramon's email address is rrivera, which is RRIVERA at mvsd320.org. So it's rrivera at mvsd320.org. So before you go, what is your final thought today? Besides, we didn't get enough time to get this done.
Well, I know we need more time, David. But
Leave
as
my
as
audience
going
with some
back
advice.
to Linda Ronstadt. Linda Ronstadt got the best the best groups: Mariachi Vargas, Mariachi Sol de Mexico, Mariachi Los Camperos, and she got the best coaches, and that's why her album was successful. She actually did 2 mariachi albums, and they're the best mariachi albums out there because she did her research. So, as music teachers, do your research, get the instruments, and then get help. And I don't see anything stopping you. Try it. There's no reason why not to try to add mariachi to your curriculum and to your music program, because it's a game changer. I've seen it in schools nationwide where it's been a game changer, and you will never ever regret by bringing mariachi to your school. Because remember, your job is to teach from Mozart to mariachi and teach all of that in between, because viva mariachi, viva la cultura mexicana. Thank you so much, David, for this. Thank you, Music
Oh my
for All.
gosh.
Thank you, Podcast Network. I'm so excited to see this, because this is so awesome. Awesome to have this platform.
Well, it's so nice to finally get to talk to you for a change. I've been a fanboy on the outside, and
Thank you,
and now
David.
now we finally have our connection. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Ramon. You've been absolutely amazing.
Thank you, David. Viva mariachi.
Viva la mariachi. All right, kids. Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for coming today. I hope you learned something today. It is my belief that we just engage in the process, and there is no wrong way to do music, and just get out there and make kids love music more and more. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Culture Before Content here on the Music for All Podcast Network. And we are immensely thankful to Yamaha for their continued support as our national presenting sponsor. And just a reminder, if you're going to get to our podcast, doesn't matter. You can listen, you can watch. Just go to musicforall.org/podcast, and you can find all the podcasts on the Music for All network. I love them. I listen to them all, and find the one that reaches you. And please share with your friends, share with your family. I'll share with your enemies. I'll take it. Bring anybody. Anyway, thank you so much for coming to Culture Before Content today. I'm David Duarte, your host, and I hope to see you next week.